right. Good morning, guys. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So it's Monday morning. Let's see what's going on here. I was watching a couple things here, just waiting for some movement. It's a little slow, but we had a lot more news this week than last week. So hopefully we get some volatility events this week. It's been pretty slow the last couple weeks for sure. Very slow news cycle too, as far as data releases, but got NFP this week, got Aussie rates tonight, overnight. So maybe we'll look at some Aussie stuff today. Got a bunch of stuff going on, actually. A bunch of smaller things, but NFP Friday. So that's good. Should be a much better week here. A lot more exciting week this week. The last 2 to 3 weeks have been actually pretty slow, with some individual moves. But overall, especially like the equities market, like it's been just flat overall. But yeah, good game Bitcoin, by the way. Up. Boy, it's getting sketchy, but it's also pretty interesting here. Good game. We're back up into this area. We're in it now. We're in the density where everybody's was stuck before. Everybody's been holding for a year. Now everybody's average position is right about where we are right now. So pretty interesting level here. To be honest, not really any decision to make right now. There is one decision to make, but I don't know. Depends on what everybody's bias is right here. Yeah, it's pretty high right at the moment on a big parabolic peak high. Depends on what you're looking to do, which time frame is. But yeah, I don't know. Won't get too far into that right now. The aggressive trader would be short here. We've been waiting for this level for a long time. For like a day trade, swing trade kind of situation. I don't know. This is what we were waiting for it to get up on another big peak high up here. I mean, it's just simple logic. Market goes up, market goes down. Market goes up, makes a new high, comes down, goes up, makes a new high, comes down, goes up, makes a new high. Let's take a wild guess on what's next. Now the question is, how long do you hold it? What's going to happen now? Man, it's up there. It's really up there right now. Not necessarily a call, but the aggressive trader is going to be looking to probably take profits or sell right here. But I don't know. Some people believe the bull run's starting. I hope it is. I honestly hope it is for all the hodlers out there. I don't know. We'll come back to it. Nothing really to do right now. I mean, it's definitely not a long. I think that's pretty clear. So, I don't know. Nothing to do with it. There's really not much of a decision to make other than, is this going to pull back, over the next couple days? Is it going to pull back and reject that big area right there? Yay or nay. It depends on everybody's, what everybody's risk tolerance is. I know what I would do personally, but that's just me. There's no confirmation here yet. So anyway, so let's take a look here. Let's take a spin through the 4 hours, do our 4 hour sweep, try to see what we're looking at, what's above us, what's below us, what's within the weekly range that we could be looking for this week. What are we looking for? What's likely to happen? We've got NFP this week. We need to keep that in mind. I think that was the big event. I don't think there's any other large events other than the rates potentially on the Aussie tonight. So we may come in tomorrow morning and be a big wide opening range on the Aussie pairs. Some services PMI. Got jolts. That'll be interesting to see how many job openings there are, but not going to move the market very big probably. ADP. ADP Wednesday always means NFP Friday. Same data point, different source. Slightly different calculation, but same general data point. Non-farm payroll change. Non-farm employment. Rates on the CAD. Okay, I didn't see that one. Yeah, okay, so CAD rates Wednesday, there's another one. Yeah, so we got a good week here going. Hopefully this will be a much more active week. It's been slow the last couple of weeks. I'd be the first one to admit it. It's just been there hasn't been a lot of reason to move money. So we got rates on the CAD, rates on the Aussie. Not much. You got jobless Thursday, unemployment claims, and then NFP. So that we got our big volatility event on Friday. And we got some rates to look out for. So we'll prioritize Aussie and CAD pairs. As far as positioning, we'll take a look at that. Yeah, so let's see what we got. See what we can do. Let's just run through the main actors here, the main players, see what we're looking at. Where are we? What's above us? What's below us? What's within range? Just in its simplest form, where should we look for some kind of reaction or directional change or something? Some of this stuff goes out to the weekly chart, the higher time frames. But as far as the dollar's concerned, I mean, we got this right last week. We nailed that on the low. I think at this point, the likely scenario is range for now. Exactly what it's doing. I wouldn't probably want to be heavily short here. It may come down here and just kind of do this kind of crap. I don't know. We'll see. I do think we're going to be moving back up, though. Been down for quite a while. Been down big, too, on the dollar. Big by percentage in the amount of time. I mean, it was like almost 5%, and it's like 4.5% in a month. That's a big drop for the dollar. So, we're down a lot. Big lower low coming off the lower low. You can start to see the range start to play out here. We can adjust some of our charts here now that got a new weekly open. I'd be watching in here. Where's the last place? Your buyers were correct. We'll watch this on the way down. So we got our effective trading range in here somewhere, and then obviously we'll watch on the top ends. We'll watch where your sellers are going to be. There's going to be multiple areas on the high. This is just what we were looking at last week. But, so we're kind of right in the middle. As far as right now, our effective trading range today is going to be somewhere in here. And we'll have to see how that lines up on the weekly chart. What's our weekly potential? So we could potentially make a new low, which would be interesting. That would set us definitely up. I would be all over that if the dollar did make a new low. Other than that, we're within range to go kind of retest that structural break right here. We had a big structural inflection point right here, where it was kind of the bottom of a range that broke. If it did retest that, maybe we'll take a look at that. So we don't really have a clear direction yet. Just looking to see what's within range. At the moment, you can just kind of see the range playing out here on the dollar. Nothing super set yet. Super set in stone here. No clear direction yet, which is fine. We'll come back to this in a second. See what we got on the yen here. The yen, man, been watching this one closely for a while. What do we have here? We all know this is down. This has been pushing the all-time low for a while now, months at this point. It's just kind of looks like it's starting to stabilize on the low. Now, here's the issue. Very clear kind of structural inflection point right here, where this low had become a high now. So you see what I'm saying? Now what? Is this a good time to buy it? Probably not. Got a very clear structural inflection point here, and there's an argument to be made that maybe we're at the top of the range right now. We're at the top of a range, and we haven't seen the right side of this chart develop yet. And how do we know that it's not going to, just do this again? And you know what I'm saying? Or, maybe pull back, make a higher low again, and then go. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Just got to be cautious with it. Just cautious. because we are on the high. It had been making higher lows, which is good. We've been waiting for this yen to pull back up. This one's been the pain trade. This has been the big pain trade in the market, is the yen, for sure. 100%. Just brutal, perpetual broken lows, just cannot recover. I mean, it just tried for, it's been months, literally, at this point. And it just has not been able to recover. And where we are, we're just kind of right back to a range high, just in its simplest form. Where's the range high here is what we're looking at. No secret strategy on this right now, but what could we be looking at on the way down? There's obviously going to be this. These kind of levels are weaker. I'd prefer to watch something like this. It's been, previously untested kind of situation for a higher low. We'll look and see which one of these is within range. If it pops the high, where are we likely to go? Just get our chart set up. I think up here is going to be a thing. Just run through our charts and get them set up so we know what we're looking at this week. We know what's within range. Let's see. Yeah, it's definitely within the weekly range to do that now. Could also be on the low. So I'm just trying to get an idea on where we are exactly. What should we expect? What's our potential movement to the upside and the downside? And then we'll watch and try to make the best decision that we can. Right now, we're up on a high. So don't be surprised if the yen starts to pull back a little bit, pull down. Weaker yen. And we'll try to figure out something there. This was obviously good. Nailed that. We've had some very good trades the last couple of weeks. Just very good, honestly. For as slow as it's been, overall, had a lot of markets going sideways. Actually had some very good trades. Should have probably put more juice on that one, but what we got here is just clear range. You can see the, just loosely, we're in a range consolidation on the high. It wouldn't be surprising, and we did sell off in the money. We knew that was coming. We knew what we were looking for there. Got this right last week. Don't be surprised if this tries to pull back up a little bit. We'll take another look at the dollar here too. But if we get some kind of something like that would be normal. We've got, higher high, higher high, higher high. Eventually this will make the transition from higher highs to lower highs. That's generally what happens as you form some kind of a range at the top or the bottom. There'll be these higher highs or lows on the bottom, and then eventually it'll come up, make a lower high, and as this continues to distribute sideways. So we're kind of watching for that transition. Where could it potentially make a lower high? Well, there's an obvious level here. We're going to mark that out right now. Now that we've got this, we've got a very clear area right here that has held. We could probably adjust these charts a little bit. I think this is a weekly level. It's a weekly chart. However, so that's going to be a thing. We'll watch this as this comes back up into here, so we can just have an idea. This could be actually an easier trade this week, depending on what happens here. If this does go to bounce, I would say there's a very high probability that we're going to retest the high of this, up here. So if this starts to stabilize down here, that dollar maybe gets weak, maybe that pops back up a little bit. Easy decision. So we'll take another look at that. We're going to mark that out. Other than that, we know where we're going. Where is that within our weekly range? Yep, just so magically happens to be right up there in the weekly potential high. So this makes sense. We'll watch this. We're going to be looking at the low of the day on euro dollar. We'll go ahead and mark that out. 1 second. Yeah, so we'll be looking at if we get any lows, like if this goes to flush out on the low, might be a prudent idea to start buying the low of the day here, possibly. You can wait for a confirmation, but yeah, I would say any broken like spike low like that too, just for a, yeah, if you get any shenanigans down there on the spike low, it might be worth it to try to catch that back up, because we have a higher high that hasn't been retested. It's very unlikely that that goes untested. So there's a high likelihood at some point, whatever is going to happen down here, there's a high likelihood that it's going to end up back up there at some point. Just in general, that's how, price action tends to work. So watch that. It doesn't necessarily look like the high of the cycle yet, but we figured it was going to sell off that sometime up there. We got that right. So maybe we get the counter trend move back up. We'll take another quick look at the dollar here. And that may forecast possibly another retest of the low on the dollar. Maybe the dollar comes back and does this and gives us a higher low back into our untested buyers right there. We've got a pretty good idea here what's going on. I think we can already start to see what we're looking for. So the aggressive directional bias would be to the downside on the dollar. Maybe euro dollar is going to retest higher. Maybe the dollar index, the US dollar index at some point is going to end up back down into here, and maybe that catches a bounce too. Maybe we get a higher low W here on the bottom. Same situation here, inverse. We had a low, retracement, lower low, retracement, lower low, retracement, lower low, retracement. Eventually, this is going to start to stabilize down here, and you'll get that transition where it goes from lower lows to higher lows as the range is formed. The accumulation range is formed at the bottom. Typically, that's how that's going to go. So we know what we're looking for here. We're all over this. But see if the dollar starts to make a move to the downside, we'll be setting up for euro dollar. Maybe set up for it ahead of time. Like, even say if this spiked up like that, it might be the right thing to do to try to take it both ways. Maybe we could catch the dollar move down. And we can play that with euro dollar. Like if this dumps down, the dollar pumps and then rips back the other way, we might be able to be all over this. Might be able to catch it to the upside and the lower high if it makes a lower high, or if it makes a higher high, then that would be even better. So I think we've got this figured out on euro dollar. What we're looking for this week, we do also got some news that could push it around, so that's good. We may have the news volatility event on top of it, so there's a possibility. Moving on with the dollar, Aussie dollar. This is probably going to be another good opportunity. I mean, we were looking at this one last week. Higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, higher high, whatever it's doing. Eventually we're going to get a higher high and probably get the pullback. What's to the left here? Spike high right there, like a swing high. Maybe watching just above the swing high. I'm actually curious to see where that is. What's just above that swing high right there? How far is it within our range? Okay, so yeah, it be looking to sell the weekly high if we get up there. Yeah, so we were already on a spike high, but would wait and see if it'll give us a higher high. Just if that dollar does pull back, we'll watch the dollar. Yeah, so I mean, this could be an opportunity as well because it is still up. We were looking to get long on this for a long time, but it is still up, and we're up on a higher high. So we're again trying to play those day trade pullbacks here. That's a possibility here on Aussie dollar. It'll probably be a basket against the dollar. I don't need to mark them all, but euro dollar, just leave marked because that one's pretty clear. I'd be able to run it back the other way. Euro yen. We're back in our buyers here. This all made sense. I would say if that barely breaks the low, then yeah. Just a little nervous about this yen right now. I mean, honestly, because this is up on a high, whatever this is going to do, it may barely break this spike high right here. This swing high right here, a lot of times what will happen, it'll barely break it and then pull back down like that. So if that were to happen, you know, I could see how this could barely smack this like this and then maybe pull back up into here. It's probably going to come back to right here. So that may be a thing. We'll leave that. So maybe we've got a range in here depending on what happens. If this will start to turn around somewhere, you know, even if it's a little bit lower, we'll watch this. You know, we'll watch that yen. If the yen index starts to turn around, because this is very clearly at a structural high right here. It's very clear that this is a range high. You know, if you look at it this way. This hasn't fully developed yet. We're probably just right up here on the high, sellers on the top, buyers on the bottom, and we're probably just going to be pulling back down within our range like this. It wouldn't surprise me. Hopefully it doesn't go all the way back down. Hopefully this will come back up, make like a higher low, and then go again. But over the next day or two, don't be surprised if the yen does get a little weaker. Something we could at least watch out for. Euro yen, that, you know, same thing. Like, this is way down here. You know, we're just off the swing high from the other day. You know, we're 450 pips off the swing high, pulling back down into a very dense consolidation down here. We need to watch this on the lows. Yeah, we'll watch this. I definitely wouldn't be shorting it right here, asking for trouble. If it barely cuts through, that's fine, but it's probably not a short from here. We could wait for it to kind of shift off the low, and when it shifts, then we could jump on pullbacks, but this is very likely going to end up pulling back up at least a little bit. Then who knows? This here is pretty dense right there. I don't think that this is just going to blow through this like nothing. There's going to be a lot of settlement that happens in here. If you look across this, you know, like pretend this is like a volume profile, you know, where the little line sticks out like that. There's going to be a big dense area right here. You can visually see like in your mind even, you can see volume profile without actually looking at it. It just looks at volume across at price level. It actually uses the candle bodies on a lot of them, a lot of the calculation. You can just look and see where's the density of the candle bodies. It's that simple. But yeah, you can definitely see right here. I don't think it's just going to blow through there. So we could probably watch for some kind of a retracement back up after that. Was a pretty dark drop there. Sharp drop. I don't know. We'll see. We'll watch this. If this looks like this is going to start to hold right here, might want to be long for at least a day or two on euro yen. Euro pound off of Friday. This one was money. There are three that we were watching: euro pound, euro Aussie, and euro Kiwi. And we'll get to those in a second. For the lows, our Friday entries, and gold short. We'll talk about gold in a minute. Gold, holy crap, what a move! That was a big move. I don't know what that's about, to be honest. It's just a blow off top. It's probably thin volume up there in the nosebleed section. It's probably just a blow off top on thin volume, and it came all the way back. We'll look at that in a second. But there were four things that we were looking at on Friday. Was euro pound, euro Kiwi, euro Aussie long, and then gold short. But gold ended up doing a crazy move. We're watching gold to figure out where to get into it, because it was up on it was like a triple top, and we're going to get to that. But euro pound long, this is something to watch here as this comes down. Whatever this pullbacks we're getting here, we'll look for some kind of stabilization. I think there's a pretty good chance of some kind of a retracement here this week. If you didn't get in this the first time, there's nothing wrong with waiting a little bit, and we'll wait and see. Actually have an alert down here that never got hit, just a hair lower. So we'll watch this, and we could probably refine these levels down. I think this is a weekly level, the weekly chart level. It just doesn't look the same on a 4-hour chart, but Like just for reference, I think if we go out to the weekly, this was pretty clear if I remember that we were, we're in our buyers down here. Probably adjust this a little bit. It's just a big demand level down here. The first retest of the demand level, and we were looking for that center mass pullback. I mean, it's exactly what we got going on. What happens after this whole weekly candle could be green. Look at this. You look at what's going on here. Big, massive, full-bodied candle back into a demand level. Very clear buyers demand. This whole entire weekly candle could close green, but still failure. A pullback, the center mass pullback here. People in the group know what we're talking about there. The center mass pullback on this big McNasty right there. This entire weekly candle could close green. So keep that in mind with Euro Pound as far as a directional bias. Another scenario is that maybe this closes very weak and we get like a morning star and the next weekly candle goes up. But there's still plenty of room for this to pull back up. Just on a side note. So may want to look to buy pullbacks possibly on Euro Pound. There's no confirmation yet, but if you look at the weekly chart, that'll kind of tell you what could potentially happen. Moving on, Euro CAD. This just pulled back and whatever. Kind of nothing here. It actually doesn't look too bad right now. Doesn't look that bad. It's not bad. Not a super fan of the entry. I actually would probably rather be long than short here. Yeah, I don't know, man. I feel like we're just right in between. This feels like this is trying to go for the swing low right here, but it wouldn't surprise me if we did end up like that. But if we do, there's going to be a monster trade here. EuroCAD. We definitely want to be watching this. If we do end up low this week, we probably want to catch that bounce. I mean, we're looking at a very good RR here, talking about like a 300 plus pip move, just back up to within that range. It's just very likely that something like that's going to happen. If it were to drop lower, that's something we would definitely want to be watching. So again, there's plenty of opportunity on the way. Be right back into untested demand after breaking a swing low. It'd be money. That looks good. Depending on where we go though. It's within a weekly range, definitely to go down. If it pulled up a little bit and rejected, that would be normal. We'll see here. This could go either way. It doesn't look terrible right now. It's trying to move up. Here's the issue I have with this. What if this is just a range consolidation like this that hasn't fully developed yet, and it ends up doing that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going all, V recovery all the way back up. It kind of feels like this needs to get taken out to me, just from experience. And I could definitely understand some kind of like range here in the market cycle. We know how this goes. You pop up, spike high, consolidation. We got our level one in the cycle. We drop, consolidate, drop, consolidate, possibly, pull back up, something like that. Even if it did go a little lower. But you see what's happening here in the cycle. Like, we're really only on our second consolidation, really. We came off the high, consolidated, dropped again. It would be completely normal as far as a market cycle is concerned for this to go sideways for a little bit, and not necessarily make some big, huge recovery. But a range here would make sense. So we'll watch this. Don't be surprised if it does end up like closing the week out. What if this pops up or something and then rejects and ends up closing out on Friday down here or something? Then maybe we got a whole different scenario here for a retracement, and we'll take another look at it once we get down there. I would really rather wait for that, and it may be an aggressive play if this pops up to try to sell into it. We'll watch it. It depends on what's going on at the time. I know we do have CAD rates. I think it was Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Yeah. So we got the overnight rate on the CAD. So there's likely going to be some volatility here on Wednesday. So we'll watch this. Like if we get a direction on Wednesday, that might help us make a decision. Moving on. Just taking our little deep dive here. We're going to go through this just to make sure we do our due diligence, make sure we know what we're looking for. Want to get it this week. I have a feeling this is going to be a much better week because we got a little bit more activity going on. Kind of got the Thanksgiving holidays out of the way now. Hopefully this will be a little smoother this week. It's been overall, the market's been slow, especially the stock market in the season. We'll talk about that. We had a week of nothing basically, and then a big crazy blow off. Euro Kiwi, this is something to watch here. We're just back down. I mean, it's very clear. It's very clear where we are here. It's time to start watching down here. I don't think there's any argument whatsoever about what we're looking for down here. So, we're going to be watching the lows, watching the pullbacks, looking for that hold. Where is it going to hold? Is that going to be it? How much more? What spike lows could break? What's lower than that low right there? Yeah, so yeah, I would say if that were to break, yeah, we'll have to watch this. I'm not even going to bother setting too many other levels up. We'll watch this, but maybe watching the low of the day every day on Euro Kiwi until that retraces. It's going to eventually, somewhere down here, there's going to be a low that's going to hold, and you're going to end up getting this. And it's going to be 200 or 300 pips. It's going to happen. Like we all know this is going to happen. So how do we get into it and with what lot size, right? That's always the question. We're very good at figuring out what's going to happen. It's always a risk management game. How much do I risk on it? That's always the question. How much do I risk relative to what my goals are and what my account size is? What is my risk tolerance relative to my account size? Figuring out what's going to happen is the easy part. We're just so good at that, honestly. We're so good at figuring out what's going to happen. Like, it's not even a competition anymore on that. It's how much risk do we place? What's the risk management game, Euro Aussie, we've already broken the low here. Very easy to see this. We already have a new low. This was one of the three on Friday. Our Friday entries: Euro Pound, Euro Kiwi, and Euro Aussie. Same situation here. This is even better. I mean, we've got a broken low already. We know what we're looking for here. Look at the overall structure here. What's the probability that somewhere down here this stabilizes and starts to pull back up a little bit like that? You know what I'm saying? So, we'll watch for Euro strength. And we already know that Euro Pound is way down. And the Euro is likely to be stronger than the Pound at some point soon. Still, down right now. But when this starts to pull back up, we know the Euro is likely to be stronger than the Pound. So we know that we'll focus our bias on Euro longs rather than Pound longs, right? If the Euro is stronger than the Pound, then there's no reason to be long Pound over the Euro. Pound dollar. It's moving on. So Euro Aussie, we know what we're looking for there. There's no reason to really mess with our charts too much. Actually, hold on a second. Let's just make sure we know what we're looking for here. This may be an issue right here. If there's something there, yeah, it's going to put us, that's probably going to be somewhere about the weekly high. If it goes up, our weekly high would probably be right there. What else? Euro Kiwi, same kind of situation. I'm gonna bother marking all this out. It's a big whole huge wide range right there. But we're definitely watching the lows of the day on Euro Aussie. Euro Kiwi, Euro Aussie, Euro Pound as well. Moving on to the Pound. Sigma charts. Pound. Haven't quite cleared this out yet. I know we were looking for this last week. I thought the week before too. No, maybe it was pound CAD. I know we've been watching this for like a week or two for this to clear out, and it still hasn't resolved. I think that's a higher time frame level where your weekly sellers were. This is pretty weak right here, but may bounce when it gets there. This is really going to be your, that's really going to be your level. I'll just leave that there. We'll assume that this is going to break. If it were to come down, we'll assume that breaks. And we'll watch probably this whole situation really, but what do we do with this? I mean, assume that it's going to run up and retest up there. Untapped liquidity higher. It's a range consolidation at the moment. Just very clear, very well defined. This, right? You know how we do this. I would probably wait and see if this pops higher. If this makes a higher high, then we would probably be looking for some kind of rejection here. Again, we'll watch the dollar. You know, we're going to watch the dollar index too, and we'll try to take our cues there. Just in its simplest form, again, just the logic of it. What's probable? What's the most likely scenario? You know, what do you think is going to happen here? You know, somewhere up here. You know, we get up on a high again. What's likely? You know, maybe we get some expansion up here going into a distribution. You know, we'll watch this. May or may not be the best choice. We'll see between the euro and the pound. However, if this would break that high, I think that's going to be something to watch. I think it's going to be tradable. It's a range that's probably going to be tradable as of right now, or is within a daily range. I mean, you could probably get that. Yeah, that would put us right down at the low of the day. If we ran down, we would be looking there for the low of the day. Other than that, a broken high, I mean, that sets us up money right there. So somewhere within this trading range right there for the day. Moving on, pound CAD. This did make a higher high. Finally, we got our higher high up here, and we got that right. If you guys remember this last week, nailed that. This could be a consolidation right here that hasn't fully played out. I would be cautious trying to buy this. Wouldn't really want to buy it right now. Probably leaving it alone. We've talked about this one. This was I don't even want to have nightmares about this trade. Back in here, stupid pound CAD, man, had the whole thing with 6 lots, 860 pip move on 6 lots, and closed out of it because I couldn't watch it. And there it went. It left. Had the trade right. Been crying about that one for a while. Salty about that. But as of right now, you know, we've made the move. Finally, we cleared all the way out. We broke our swing high, and then, you know, going into a distribution up here. This kind of feels like, you know, this kind of stuff. So it'll be tradable, I'm sure. I'm sure this will be tradable. As of right now, we kind of got an expansion. We got higher high, lower low, and I could see this kind of doing anything in here. Not really the best entry right now. And here's what I mean by that. You got your current swing high, your local swing high, and your local swing low. And we're just right smack in the middle of it. And there's no disproportionate risk versus reward here to trade from the middle of a range, which is probably not the best idea. As far as an entry is concerned, you have no natural advantage by being long or short. Trading from right dead smack center, right, I mean, dead at a structural inflection point here. You can see it. See the equilibrium right here where we've traveled away. You can, once you start to learn to see this, like we look at this, you just see it. There's no advantage here. There's no disproportionate risk versus reward is the way I like to explain it. Where you always want to give yourself an advantage, right? As a trader, you want to give yourself the best edge that you can in strategy and risk management in your decision making and whatever, and if you're trying to make a directional decision from the middle, there's, from the fork in the road, there's really no advantage that you're giving yourself. So maybe we could wait and wait for some kind of advantage there. There's no better reward than risk trading from the middle. It could go either way, and it probably will. It'll probably go both. And that just, it ups. If you're trading from the middle, that raises your probability of getting stopped out. So we don't want to do that. Sometimes waiting is trading. 99% waiting, 1% trading. That's how this goes. Sometimes you wait for the move, let the move come to you. Pound yen. What else? Pound yen. Watching the yen. I'm a huge fan of where this is on the macro. Huge fan of the position on pound yen. Not a huge fan of the movement of the yen index itself. The yen as a currency index is sketchy. Big fan of where this is, though. I mean, I think this is pretty self-explanatory here. We're way up on a big higher high. We were, but we're still kind of up here. And, eventually there's going to be a monster of a move. When the yen ends up getting strong, what's going to end up happening here is there's going to be a big, huge range like this that we haven't really seen yet. And eventually, whatever is happening here, eventually it's going to be something like this, eventually. And there's going to be plenty of room for downside. We're probably much closer to the high than to the low. It's kind of the point I'm making. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a short right now. I actually would not short this right now. But we can see our effective range down here. What the levels that we're watching. Where are our sellers? Where are our buyers? Kind of nothing right now. Skip it. Pound yen's not the best pair to trade really all the time. We talk about those reasons a lot, but the yen itself has been a mess lately. If you only traded pound yen this year, probably had a hard time. Think about that. How many traders only trade GJ? How many traders only trade GJ? Go back and look at the chart of the yen this year and then look at other charts, and you'll see why that was a terrible decision to only trade GJ. Just, it is what it is. Pound Swiss. This has been super clean for a very long time. I'm actually surprised at how clean this has been. Even last week, I mean, it just sold right off the high, bounced right off the low again. Just very well defined, almost eerie, scary how well defined this buy zone has been. How consistent, the buy and sell zone here. And same thing back here for like 7 months or something straight. I mean, it was just like ping pong off the highs and lows of the range. It's ridiculous. Then we had this weird situation with the Swiss franc back here. I remember this happening when the Swiss franc went crazy. It went to the moon. And then now we're just back to this very well-defined, almost robotic kind of range. I actually took this off the list for a while because it was so low volatility. It just wasn't moving very much. But the range trading has been good. If we can get back to one of these, either the range low or the range high, maybe we'll take a look at that. Nothing right now. Pound Aussie. Disappointing lately, volatility wise. Very low overall volatility. This thing has just been same here. Just, we're talking about months, guys. Almost a year straight. Maybe not a year, but a long time. Months. just kind of sideways, and it's getting tighter. Not a year, but very tight here. Like this is actually squeezing in, the majority of the trading volume has all been in one little tiny range right here. And if you look across this, the majority of the density has all been in one area with just slight pops in and out of it. Again, same, looking like it's coming off the low. Been watching this one. It's been very low volatility this whole year, really, but especially lately. The last couple months been very low volatility, like shockingly low volatility for this pair. For pound Aussie and pound Kiwi are typically like your two highest volatility pound pairs. They have just completely died out. The pound and the Aussie and the pound and Kiwi go in the same direction, just very long periods of time of, relatively tight price action, especially right in here. Like the density right in here, like look at the candle body, the size of the candle bodies. It's kind of hard to see it, but explain what I'm talking about. You can start to see how tight this gets, and this tiny little dense candle bodies in here, it really tightens up a lot. Like that kind of stuff is hard to trade, and it lowers your average range. Like say this moves like 100 and whatever. It's been moving 144 pips in a day, which is good. That's on the high end of the pound pairs, but it used to be like 244 pips, 300 pips a day. The average ranges within a daily move, your intraday ranges have really squeezed in. You're really getting less movement within the daily trading range. It's hard to explain, but lower overall volatility. You would expect it to not move as much as normal. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at here, but we are low, we're down. Maybe we could watch this. I would rather watch for this to flush out one more time and try to catch it on a lower low, because it is down. And if we're patient and you wait for it to make it like some other lower low or something down here, maybe we can catch that. Maybe there's something there. I would rather wait for it to break a low. It's just the way I tend to like to do things, especially something like that. It's been ranging. Let it break the low first. If there's no clear direction. CAD yen, same thing with the yen. This is way up here though. I know that this is historically very high. In its overall structure, it's extremely high. This isn't low. Like this has been up for a long time, and it's slowly starting to roll off the high. You see the transition here, higher highs, all of a sudden lower highs. This is transitioning from higher highs to lower highs within its macro distribution range on the top. So this is rolling over. Not a good time to short it right now. It's probably not in a good place to make a decision, to be honest. I would wait and let this run down a little bit. See if it's within a weekly range or not to break the low. It is. What you really want to be looking for, honestly, is if this were to go down and break this low again and make another lower low, that's what we would probably be looking for to pull back up. Even if it makes a lower high again, who cares? Like the counter trend move back up, this move right here is probably the one that would pay out. So if this were to come back and break that swing low right there, we haven't gotten even back into demand yet, but if it were to come back and barely break that low, the aggressive trader would probably be looking for the counter trend retracement back up. I could see a move like that happening, something like that. So if this were to continue lower, we could be anticipatory and say, look, maybe this is going to come back, at minimum make a higher low, but still probably lower, and likely to break the low and still probably lower, So we would probably want to weight our bias to the downside on CAD yen, and also given where the yen's very low. You would expect it to go higher. Now it hasn't really done that yet, but it's not a good short entry right now. But if you get a chance to like sell the high of the day, that I could understand, just to try to see if this will push a little lower. That's a maybe on CAD yen. We'll have a downside bias, but no entry yet. We'll say that. Swiss yen. This one's been on an all-time high. This is the one. As far as the yen pair, this is the one. This continually makes all-time highs. This is all-time high, all-time high, all-time high, and then starting to kind of chill out down here. So we got a lower high. We talk about that transitional period here. We're going higher highs to lower highs all of a sudden, where that rolls over and you start to get that transition to lower highs all of a sudden. And generally there'll be some like equal lows or something back here, and that's going to be your range boundary. It's a big range setting up that hasn't fully developed. And we're trying to figure out where the top end of that range is. You know, what's happening here is something that it hasn't fully set up yet, but you know, buyers on the bottom, sellers on the top, you know, that kind of situation. So we're waiting for something like that to start to take place as far as the structure is concerned. The market cycle itself, you'll see these like equal lows or something very similar down here. That's probably going to be your range low. And it just hasn't played out yet. But we're starting to see our first lower highs. We got our first lower high here. So as of right now, it's a contraction. It's squeezing in. We haven't broken a low yet, and it is squeezing in. But if for some reason, you know, this runs up a little bit, you might want to try to... I'd rather be short than long. But at the moment, it is a contraction. It's squeezing in. You know, and we don't do the trend line thing here, but not anymore. Now that we know how this works, you realize that trend lines are useless because there's something else happening, and it manifests as a diagonal line on a chart, but there's really something else that's happening. But you can see this starting to squeeze in just to illustrate the price action. You start to see it squeeze in. Oh my God, there goes my hamstring again. Wrecked. My hamstring's locking up. Leg day murdering me. Oh my gosh. Drive me nuts. I need bananas. Banana stat. Oh my God. Devastating. Hamstring cramps. All right. So, hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, Maya. Good morning. Yeah, so we'll see here. Again, this yen has been frustrating. Let's try to move quicker through it. We're almost done. Getting toward the bottom of the list. Just taking a look at our 4-hour stuff, just doing an overall, our deep dive, our 4-hour sweep. What's our structural scenario here? What are we planning for? What can we expect to potentially happen? What's within range? What's above us? What's below us that may have some kind of major reaction? We do have news this week. Finally, I have a feeling this week's going to be much better. We're going to be on it this week. The last couple of weeks have been slow, been just dead in the news, dead price action on a lot of stuff. I have a feeling this week is going to be coming alive a little bit, so that's good. We got plenty more stuff to look forward to. Some volatility events. Dollar CAD. Haven't been a huge fan of this one lately. We'll play this one with the dollar. Here's what I have to say about this. This is down a lot, and eventually when the dollar starts to come back up, this is going to tend to pull back up a little bit too. We haven't come anywhere near retesting that high yet. You know, we got a swing high here, swing here, kind of swing there. I could certainly see a scenario where it does something like that. Maybe there's this kind of structural spot down here that may be something. If it barely comes down and tests or breaks these little spike lows down here, that would put it back at this kind of inflection point. I don't know. We're watching the dollar. If for some reason this were to come lower, maybe we could buy the low of the week. Of course, that would put it right dead smack on the projected weekly low, which is actually hilarious. Funny, actually. Let me actually take a look at that. That previous low down there is right on the weekly. Second. Pop onto the 15 here. You know, our weekly projected low is going to be, we got plenty of room. It's just right in the middle. It's not really a good entry. As far as the trend is concerned, we're still to the downside and we have pulled back. So, we've got this trending move overall. Like we're heading down, pulled back, down, broke the low and pulled back. Like you wonder if it's going to try to do it again. We're still in the trend technically, and we've already had the counter trend pullback. We'll come back to that. We'll look at that in a minute. We'll get in lower time frame stuff. Yeah, so we'll watch this. We do have a little bit of rejection here. Just trying to get a general idea. You do have a little bit of rejection right there. So as far as the trend is concerned, if you're staying with the trend, you're pretty deep into it. You're pretty late. You don't really want to be selling too heavily down there, but while it's on a pullback, it's at least a little bit better. I could understand how that could maybe go again. We do, like I said, we got this stuff down here that could be a target. Got a swing low right there. It could target. Got a swing low right there. You could target for a broken low, basically. So maybe it's going to continue the trend. We'll take another look at the dollar. Quick look real here. Yeah. So, and that's right. We already kind of figured out that the dollar could definitely pull back a little bit. So it could be a weaker dollar. So dollar CAD, we would probably want to pay attention, but probably lean to the downside to see if it'll go just a little bit more. We'll watch it on lower time frames. Like I said, it's probably not the best short entry right now. It's not the best long entry. It's probably a better short than a long overall. But if you look at this, like this is down a lot. Like we're on a bunch of broken lows here. We still don't, what if it does that and then comes back? It's not really the best place to make a decision, but maybe not the worst either. Somewhere in the middle. We'll come back to that one. This has been garbage. The S&P. Overall, this has been just very flat. I think we talked about this last week. I think it was 7 days within like a 1% range, which is absolutely insane. Yeah, maybe it was more than that. 11 days within it was less than a 1% range. So this traded in less than a 1% range for like almost 2 weeks. And then we had this big spike blow off top on Friday. Like this has really been slow. Like, and even before that, like we had this big sharp trend up that started even before that. Then we had a long period of consolidation, like 1 or 2 candles, and then another like 11 or 12 days of consolidation. Like if you actually look at this price action, yes, it's higher, but if you look at the journey that it took to get there, look at the candle bodies here, look at the actual movement, and think about, and these are 4-hour candles, think intraday, how difficult this would have been to trade, to try to catch some day trade move. And then you get pop real quick and then back into nothing. Look how small these candle bodies are. You can't even hardly see them. It's the doji factory. Look at this. Look at this section of price right here. That is trash. Like that's like multiple days. That's like 3 days worth of price action. That is the doji factory. It's complete trash. Like it's just nothing. Like absolutely nothing. And this was the market condition we've been dealing with for the last couple weeks. It's been hard to catch trades for the last couple weeks, but this isn't our fault. Like this is just overall, the U.S. equities market has been very low volatility. And we're talking about for extended periods of time here. Talking about weeks. There's 17 days. 17 days traded less than a 2% range. We traded in less than a 2% range for 17 days, and the majority of it traded in less than a 1% range. Like this is like actually happened. Like this isn't an opinion. Look at the difference between this section of price right there and then this section of price. Look at the difference in the price action. Split by time. Let's split it by time. So we have a start time here and an end time of this. Let's copy that. This is where, hold on. This is where in this amount of time, we basically went nowhere, like 2%. Let's copy this and look at this amount of time and how far that moved. So it's the same time period, actually, which is insane. Right off the spike low, it's the same amount of time. This moved 10%. And then in the same period of time, it moved less than 2%. So we had a 10% move. So it was what, 5 times? It was 5 times the amount of actual directional volatility. Like, we can visually see this in the data and in the chart that this has not been our fault lately. It's just been slow. Like the US equities market drives the market. And in the same time period, we had a 10% move, then nothing. We traded within like a less than a 2% range for the next almost 2 weeks. Verified. I mean, right there. Like, look at the difference in just the flowing, trending move here relative to the next 2 weeks of almost nothing. The doji factory. And we're still in that here now. Hopefully that's going to change. Be honest with you, this kind of thing doesn't look like the high yet, where you get a big spike high up like this and then this little multi-candle grind up. This makes me wonder if this is going to spike the high one more time. I bet we end up spiking that high again. I don't like the short from there. But just to illustrate this is what we've been dealing with for the last couple of weeks. And in the same time period, before that, we moved like more than 10%. And then you just see the volatility just drop off through the floor. But if you look at the VIX, it's pretty low. I'm actually curious where the VIX is. It's probably 12 or 13, something like that. Let's actually take a look. Yeah, 12. Shocker. I can see, we've been going sideways for weeks. This is probably the easiest trade that you're going to take this year. Just on a side note, the VIX long right now is probably the most obvious trade in the history of obvious trades. The most obvious trade in obvious trade history right now, long VIX. Likely going to get a very high volatility move coming in the S&P 500. Historically, and when this thing moves, it moves. That move right there is 80% off the low. Let me remind you here, when this thing goes, it goes big. That little move right there, that's an 80% move. We're historically off the low. You're talking about like potentially like multiple hundreds of percent here from this level. Pretty wild levels here. Incredibly low volatility. So long VIX, if you can handle the heat, the swap can be rough on this one. If you can handle the heat, and we talk about these kind of things a lot. This is something we used to look at a lot. I haven't messed with it lately because it was up. I remember last time it was down here, we were looking at this. But long VIX is something maybe you could look at if you have the option to trade the VIX. I know a lot of prop firms have it. A lot of places have it. It's the volatility index of the S&P 500. Probably the most obvious thing in the market right now is long VIX. Just on a side note, but I can look at the S&P and tell you like it's dead. And what this means, it's not a directional indication, but what this means is that we're likely to start expanding here. We've been really tight for a very long time. And what's very likely to happen is this is going to start expanding into some very volatile moves. Would be very careful with crypto because of this. It's a whole nother scenario. But right now, probably not the best short. I could see this trying to break that high, and all of a sudden this thing starts expanding, like, getting a little loopy all of a sudden. This actually may be good this week. Watch it to the upside first. Now, does that make sense with the Dow? This is the crazy one right here. The Dow has been on its own journey. This here is an incredible trade coming. I don't even know what to say about this, man. This has just been on its own thing. The S&P and the NASDAQ. Oh my gosh. The S&P and the NASDAQ basically did nothing for weeks. And the Dow has just been on a completely different rampage here. And I know they had some earnings that I think it was Salesforce. We talked about that. Somebody was saying that Salesforce was up like 8% last week, which is part of this. You know, whatever the component was that pushed this up. Very different move here on the Dow, and the big three indices tend to run together, but very different move here. You know, again, we know what we're looking for. I don't think I need to say it. You know, we're up on a monster higher high on a massive expansion, just a massive expansion up here. Is this week's high going to be the one? And we'll take a look at weekly candles here in just a little bit and group stuff, dig a little deeper. But, you know, and like the S&P, you know, this doesn't feel like the high. Get this big spike with a multi-candle grind back like that. That's not what a high looks like. It typically ends in a big spike that slams back down, comes back and fails. So let's watch for a spike here, and maybe this week is going to be the solution here. I think we have a very obvious trade coming on the Dow Jones. This is going to be this is going to be the kingmaker right here. Champions will be made from this trade right here. Challenges will be won. This is going to be one that you probably want to watch. Whatever this is about to do on the spike high, when that comes back, it's going to come back disproportionately by percentage relative to the other indices, and it's going to be a doozy. This one's going to be a whopper right here when this comes back. So mark this down. Just mark it, watch it. Dow Jones, we're pushing on the all-time high up here. We're pushing it on supply. We're already in the money. We're already in the liquidity above the shelf here, and we're just kind of at this point we're watching previously untested levels. I don't really I don't put much faith in this going back to January of 22 because a lot's happened since then, and of course this money isn't still all there in the same configuration. That doesn't make sense logically, but humans and software look at historically significant levels to make decisions. So we're going to watch where humans and software might be making decisions. So one thing we're very good at is figuring out what software is probably doing. So we're going to be watching something like that. You're going to watch that on the high. NASDAQ, boy, we nailed that this last week. This was painful to get out of that trade too early and then watch it just absolutely just crush it. That was such a good trade, man. God, we had that. That was such a good one. Just wish I would have stayed in it. I think it was early in the week too. Yeah, Wednesday could have held it all the way down. But yeah, good short. But little different here. I mean, this very different. Same situation as the S&P. We've been sideways for a very long time here. The majority of this price action has been trading in like a 2% range. Same thing as the S&P for 3 weeks. You know, we've been distributing sideways. Again, look at the difference. You know, the same amount of time right here. Look at the difference here in distance that's been traveled in the same amount of time. In the same amount of time, this thing came all the way down here and all the way up here in the same amount of time as it took to do absolutely nothing for 3 weeks. See what I'm saying? Like the difference in volatility here. This hasn't been our fault for the last couple of weeks. We've been in a generally low volatility scenario here. Our environment has been very low volatility, and that can be annoying because you sit around and you wait for stuff to happen and then it just doesn't go, and it's like, okay, well, it's another day where this didn't move, and hopefully this is going to change here quickly. The longer we go and the flatter we are, the more likely that we are to have a violent move, and it's probably going to do that. It's probably going to spike up first and then slam down harder than you're ready for. And I know people don't want to hear this, but you know, it wouldn't surprise me if we get something like this and then this. Don't be surprised. Look at where we are. Things in the clouds. Don't be surprised if it comes back and starts pushing on that low down there. like over the next, couple months. We get like a, 4 or 5 month bear market here. Don't be surprised. Watch crypto when that happens. Running right into the halving too. It's just all set up so obvious, so obvious. And that's what makes me nervous, is it's too obvious. I mean, just look at where we are on this everything. We already know the correlation between equities and large cap crypto. Look at where large cap crypto is. Look at where equities are. We've coiled the snake here for 3 weeks. This thing's probably going to explode to the upside, do some big crazy day up to the upside. Might even be on NFP on Friday. Maybe we end the week up here, or maybe it's something before that. And then we just absolutely just eat dirt for the next couple weeks. Remember this whole huge range up here, like probably just a big range, and we haven't come anywhere near retesting the low of it yet since this low was made. So at minimum, there's probably going to be like a higher low. So watch something like that. Watch a blow off top first. A lot of times it'll go flat on the top, get that flat distribution. It'll shark fin. Do our group members know what we're talking about? Our shark fin move. We'll get the shark fin, and then it'll be the high of the cycle. We're looking for the high of the cycle here. This is probably the last consolidation in our move up. Up, consolidate, up, consolidate, up, consolidate. Then the spike high, lower high, down she goes. Drop, consolidate, drop, consolidate, drop, consolidate. Don't be surprised. Just over the, just on the macro. But right now, it would be normal, maybe not necessarily from right here in the middle, but it would be normal for us to run that high probably at least one more time. We'll see, because it is still running flat. And whether or not it drops first before that, I mean, you can see our big range here. Spending a second on this one because there's probably going to be like a line in the sand kind of trade here. Like there's going to be a decisive move here coming soon. And is it going to go one more time? Are we going to come down a little bit, then make one more move to the upside, knock all the bears out, and then start, a 2-month move to the downside or something, to a couple weeks, maybe. Is that going to happen? Maybe. I think it's something worth watching. As of right now, we're right dead smack in the middle. Not great. Not a great place to trade from. We'll watch it on lower time frames, try to figure out what to do. Oil, we already know what's going on here. We're waiting for this. Second most obvious trade in the market. I would say long VIX is number one. Long oil is another kingmaker trade. Like champions will be made from this trade. Mark my words. This is one of those trades that's coming. Waiting for it to break the low. Hopefully we break that low this week. We've been watching this, and we didn't get it last week. We went sideways, very low volatility. The trade we're watching, one of the big trades we're watching here is this. Been watching this one for a couple weeks. Not to mention the geopolitical aspect of it, and the hard fact that there are many oil producing nations that have a vested interest in oil not going too low for too long, especially with a lot of electronic vehicles coming. A lot of these oil producing nations are trying to get it while it's hot, get that profits from oil while there's still demand. And there will always be demand, but we're going into an environment over the next 20 years or so where there's going to be dramatically reduced demand for oil. And we still have plastics. And I mean, look at anything around your room and find me something that oil wasn't involved in. Good luck. There's a challenge for you. Look at any object on your desk right now, around your room or your office or wherever you are, your phone that you're holding, and find me something that doesn't have plastic in it, or, some petrol-based substance. You know what I'm saying? Like it's involved in so many things. There's going to be demand, but we're talking about for a fuel demand. It's just off topic, but there's a lot of oil producing nations that are at war right now that need oil for funding. Places like Saudi Arabia that don't really have much else but oil, just keeping it real. They have a vested interest in oil not being too low for too long, for GDP purposes. The United States, of course, obviously. But as we get down into here, just technically, as we start getting down into here, there's a lot of density down here. We've been down a lot. By percentage, we're talking about a lot. Yeah. Talking about a 25% drop in oil here. As we get down into here, there's a very high probability that this, to at least some degree, tries to do something like that. Some kind of a pullback, if not all the way up. Talking about a 25% move here, maybe like 25 to 30%, depending on how deep it runs. We're going to be watching this. This is like pretty obvious, that we want to be watching this for when this starts to stabilize down here and pulls back up like that. It's just going to be a big trade by percentage, and it's going to happen. This is way down, like we're way down, scrubbing the bottom. And eventually this is going to pull back up, and it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to be hard to argue about this one. The question is always where and how much, the risk management part. How do we get in with the right lot size, to not get stopped out? And then we just wait for the move, because it is very likely, and we're going to wait for this again. Whatever's going to happen here, if it'll break this low and start coming down into here, I think that would be a great place to try it. And if it barely cracks this right here, that's going to be even better. I would almost look for 3 potential entries. One on a broken low, we'll say that. One on an absolute maximum pain scenario. Worst case scenario is that it breaks this consolidation low. It's almost certainly, that's going to be tapping into, sell side liquidity down here. That's almost certainly going to retrace at least a little bit, and if not a lot of it. So we got like 3 areas down here that we've been watching. Oil is definitely one you want to have on your radar. I will stick to that. I'm very confident about the oil trade that's coming. The question is going to be where. We'll have 3 main shots at this, really, in my opinion. The last case scenario being like, if it did make it below this right here, if it makes it below that and taps sell side right there, that's going to be a maximum pain scenario. And of course, we definitely want to be taking the counter trend liquidity here. Want to be buying in the sell side liquidity, because there's a lot of shorts that would be closing there. That'd be a perfect place to close shorts. If it did run all the way down, and that's still like probably, that's more than a week away. I'm not sure that's even it's going to be hard to get down there. But if it did, that, I think there's 3 attempts on this. Just on this one trade, very high probability of a monster move, and 3 very clear attempts at the trade. If one of these first 2 doesn't work out, the third one is, I would be shocked. Stuff happens in trading, but I would be shocked if this last attempt on the broken, if it did run all the way down and cut through into that sell side, I would be shocked if this didn't make just an absolutely massive retracement. Because also, if you go back and look at where we are, you got to understand how far down we are too. This is clean, super clean. Like we're down here at the bottom. Now, where is it going to be? Where's the retracement? Look how many weeks in a row we are red. Look at it start to stabilize down here. Look at the weekly buyers down into here. Like, this is the most obvious thing on the planet. So don't miss this. If you're watching this video and you're not in the group every day, like, we're going to get this trade, but write this down. Write that down. What was that? What was that movie? Was it Van Wilder? Write that down. Yeah, don't miss that one. That one's money. Super excited about this one. I'd be shocked if it didn't play out. from one of these three areas. We're going to be watching this one. I would be very surprised if oil came down and stayed down at 60s. No way. Not going to happen. It's done it in the past. We all remember when oil went to zero. But again, it's about probability, right? Which is more likely? What's more likely to happen? Yeah, Van Wilder. That's a classic. God, forgot about that. Coolidge College. It's a good one. Gold. Take another look at gold here. I don't know what the heck this was. Yeah, weird. We were watching this on Friday. What was that, Sunday? Yeah, what the heck was that? It's like a big blow off, just crazy top. It was like a big like triple top up here. Let me zoom out a little bit. You got to go out to a daily or a weekly to see it. Yeah, so we new all-time high. We broke that. We were watching this on Friday. It's a big like triple top up here, and we were pushing on it on Friday. We closed up there. We were like, all right, we're gonna watch this for a short. Probably got a long way to go down, guys, on this one. You don't think that's gonna pull back? It just blew everybody off. Well, I probably shouldn't say that. That didn't sound right. This blew off the top. It's just took everybody out. That's what I mean, man. Voice getting liquidated already. Getting stopped out on ticker VOICE. This already took everybody out. So now what? New all-time high. Took everybody out already. Anybody who was probably short got roasted on that, and they're out of the game. So now what? Is this going to start to fall coming off the all-time high? It's something to watch. Definitely something to pay attention to here this week. Gold. We'll watch for any strength in the dollar. Question is going to be how much BS is this going to do? You know what I mean? How much of this sideways is it going to do before it fails and starts to pull back? This is what that's the thing we're going to have to watch. What the heck are we going to do with that? Man, it kind of messes things up because it created such a vacuum there, like just such a big range, basically, such a big wide range. And we still, how many people are still trapped up there? Somebody bought that. Somebody bought 2150 on gold. It went right to 2150 and sold off. Somebody's long at 2150. Oh man. To the moon. So what do we do with that? This was a really good setup there. I remember we talked about this on Friday. There was 4. If you go back, probably even go back and, oh no, I changed this chat. I changed the stream, but it was gold. There was 4 things: gold, euro pound, euro Aussie, and euro Kiwi. But gold short, and the euro's long. Because this was up on this big triple top. Now that was a heck of a move there on Sunday. I don't know what caused that. It could have probably just been thin volume. My guess is because of where it was just thin volume there. It just ran through everything. There's probably a big gap in orders right there, and it just ran through it. Everybody started buying into it, and it was probably orders getting triggered. And I guarantee you somebody's very heavily short on the top. Somebody with a lot of money is very heavily short on the top on that. I mean, what better chance than to sell the all-time high, basically. So now what? How much distribution are we going to get? I think it's going to be a question here. What's going to happen? We'll have to watch this. It's kind of messed things up because it was such a big range. It was like 4 or 5% candle, something like that. Yeah. The move, the one candle was like 3.5%. So, how much screwing around is there going to be? Went right to the monthly high, which is super interesting. I did see that. Went right to the monthly high and stalled out. Now what? It may be worth leaving it alone. Probably something to just leave alone right now. Yeah, if you're short from higher, yeah, you might want to hold on to that one. Man. We had the long though. God, we had the long on last Friday. Holy crap, man! If we'd have stayed long, 7.8%. If I'd have stayed long, got out of it. But man, that really went. We had the long right. God, yeah, just it stayed up, but it went sideways for days here. Remember, here's almost 4 days of nothing, traded in less than, like a 0.5% range here. You're talking about less than 1% for 3 days. With nothing for 3 days, but that was pretty wild. Got the pop on Friday and then on into it was just a big move. It's probably just thin volume on the top. There's nobody to stand in the way. But now what? Is this gonna trail off? I don't know. How far up is it gonna go to retest the high? Little sketchy. I don't know. We'll watch it. The range is all crazy right now because it was such a big move. It just completely blew everything out. But good game. Good game on that. I probably wouldn't sell it now. You may be in a scenario where you get this kind of situation while it tries to figure it out and then whatever's going to happen. But I would say it's much more likely than not going to end up lower at some point. Now, where's the efficient entry? That's always going to be your thing. Where do we get into it? Should we wait for it to try to retest or break the high? I couldn't imagine that happening, but trying to break that high this week, I don't know if that's got it in it. Maybe. I feel like this was like an anomaly to begin with. Like this was just run up on thin volume. I'm not sure that there's really it's that strong, to be honest. The aggressive play here would be to go long to try to retest the high. Wouldn't say it's impossible. It's not a short. I wouldn't sell it now. Not after that. With this kind of price action, I probably wouldn't enter it short. That's just not really my thing. I don't like buying high either. Depends. I always look at the trade like if I'm wrong and I have to wait for a day or two, is it reasonable? Say I'm wrong and I have to wait a day or two. You can always just take the stop too, depending on what you're looking to do. But if just as a thought experiment, say, look, what if I'm wrong here? In 2 days, is it going to be so far out of bounds that it's going to be painful? Should I even attempt it now? Or whatever. Should I even mess with it? That's kind of the thing. You try to look ahead and say, think on a little bit longer time frame, even though you're looking to trade intraday or you're trying to get in the trade just for an hour and get out. So what if it doesn't go my way and it goes sideways or starts to slowly move against me, but the trade still looks good? Could I expect to be in this for a couple days? What could happen here? Is it really a good idea to mess with it? I wouldn't want to sell this here for sure, because the move already kind of happened, and I could certainly see a scenario. Again, like I say, the aggressive play would be maybe it tries to do that. Maybe it barely cracks the high and then slams down. That happens a lot. It does happen a lot. You'll get some big spike. Happens on lows too, and it'll just grind. Just a slow, painful grind and barely crack the high and then do that. We've all seen that. Happens all the time. So it wouldn't surprise me. The aggressive play, I would say, on gold is to be long, but obey your stop. Or go lower risk and expect that because this has already happened, it also wouldn't really surprise me that much if it just does that. It wouldn't surprise me because it's very high. Remember, we're on an all-time, we just blew the all-time high to smithereens. So yeah, well, maybe we'll watch the dynamic between the dollar and gold, see if there's anything that we can gain there. Right now, the dollar's kind of holding. We'll look at the stuff on lower time frames in a few minutes. As far as the main takeaways, good game, Buckhorn. It's way up. Be very careful with this. Buying it, good game. I mean, good game. I'm glad it's up. I wish I was still in my $26,000, my 26K longs. Really wish I was still in that. And I'm salty about that, the way that went down. 60% gain. Salty about that. The way that went down with Coinbase, won't get into that, but I couldn't transfer to my own personal wallet out of Coinbase because of stupid two-factor authentication issue. So I had to send it back to my bank account, and I was right, and the freaking thing goes up 60%. Then I tried to spend it, and I paid like 50% in transaction fees. I'm over Bitcoin right now, honestly. I'm just over it. But that's a different story. I'm not going to rant about that again. It's just, not useful at the moment. It's useful as a speculative trading instrument, but Bitcoin as what it's supposed to be, it's useless. Change my mind, convince me. Right now, very, very good that it's up. Good game. Congrats to the Bulls. If you're long from lower and holding, congrats. I hope this is it, honestly. I'm not going to start selling it right now. I'd rather be short than long, but I'm not going to mess with it yet. We'll watch it as the week goes on. But good game. Keep in mind also the correlation between U.S. equities and large cap crypto, and just remember where we are. Just in the back of your mind, just think about it. Just careful. Just watch the U.S. equities market as far as crypto is concerned. Good game. Good game, Buckhorn. But it's way up there. We'll skip that for now. Dollar. What's the main takeaway here? The dollar. Really watching this. Euro dollar, I think, is going to be a thing. I'd like for this to pull back a little bit and then maybe give us a little bounce or something. I think we're going into a scenario here where we could be ranging on the low, but it may give us an opportunity to get long maybe. We'll watch it and see how if it comes down here and stops and give us a confirmation, I think we got a good opportunity here. What else? If we break the low, for sure. Watch what I think. My guess is this. That's my guess. Is we're going to be up a little bit and then down and then back up a lot. That's my guess on the dollar. We'll see how that prediction plays out toward the end of the week. Maybe we'll come back and take another look at this on Friday and see how close we were. Yen, watch the sell-off on the yen. We're at a very clear structural and inflection point right here on the yen. Triple top up here. Caution. It's just time for caution. If we barely crack that high right there on the yen, watch for a pullback here. Don't be surprised if this pulls back down. I would probably lean that direction. It's just not necessarily the right entry right now, but just look at where we are on the yen and don't be surprised if it does pull back just at least a little bit. So careful with anything like pound yen short, euro yen short. Probably don't want to continue to be short here. Like if you look at euro yen, like you can really start to see a scenario where we could potentially be back up here. Even if it barely breaks the low first, we're probably going to end up here at some point, right? As the yen pulls back, that would be normal. So it may not be worth a short here on something like euro yen, pound yen. I would probably leave pound yen alone. Same scenario here. Maybe it does come down a little lower. We talked about this and then bounce. I could see that, that would be normal. That kind of scenario would be, range contraction in there. It just may not be the right short right now. The dollar stuff, definitely watching the dollar. Euro dollar makes a lot of sense. We talked about this down on the range low. We're going to watch that dollar move and see if we can figure that out. Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi, very good potential. We talked about these on Friday. Euro Aussie, Euro Kiwi, Euro Pound. Those were the 3 euro pairs. They've already made a monster move down, very sharp in a very short period of time. We're down 800 pips in like 16 days or something like that. As this stabilizes on the low, again, the big takeaways here that we're watching, probably going to get some kind of stabilization and pull back up there. Euro Kiwi, Euro Aussie, and Euro Pound. Or this one broke the low too. Euro Aussie. It's probably going to end up a little bit higher at some point. It's already starting the move. Is there still enough juice left on it to enter here? I don't know. We'll look at it on lower time frames in a few minutes, but just the overall, what's the Cliff's Notes here? Like, what's the big takeaway? Euro Pound, same scenario, entered on Friday. Just very likely going to end up higher and could potentially be like much higher. Like, this is way down. Bottom of a big macro range low. It's something to watch. It may not necessarily be there yet, but it was definitely worth a shot on the low. Actually, the alert never got hit. Took the first entry and was waiting for the bingo entry on the break of the swing low down here, and it never hit. It just never made it. It ran a little early. So watch this one. It's way down. It's down at a big demand level down here. Still potentially a higher low. It's moved off the low already on a higher low. Pay attention to that. Euro Pound, Euro Kiwi, Euro Aussie, as far as the Euro pairs. Euro CAD, we talked about the structural thing that's happening here. I would watch it for a little bit lower. It could be a stronger CAD coming in, which could also mean stronger oil coming in at some point. So we need to watch that. Oil. This one is probably number one on the radar for this week. It's within a weekly range to give us our entries. We've got 3 potential entry points here. 2 very strong demand levels all the way out to the weekly, and then a break of the entire thing, which would tap sell side liquidity for the last shot. Somewhere down here, if we get it, just something to plan for. I bet you we're going to come back later and talk about this one if we get the entry. Gold, who knows with this. I could see it retesting the high. We already talked about that. Equities, watching for a blow off top potentially. We've been flat, sideways and flat for a while, except for the Dow, but the Dow looks like it might have a little bit more to go too. But yeah, US indices, it would be normal to me for whatever's going to happen here for this to spike up, and break the high one more time, like some big crazy high volume spike and get our like shark fin play here. That would not surprise me at all. I would rather wait for that. This doesn't necessarily look like a cycle high yet. It looks like it's starting one, but it's not quite there yet. The S&P is a little clearer. My gut tells me that we're gonna run up a little bit before we run down. Maybe even today, between today and tomorrow. The aggressive play would be long, looking for a bullish candle here. You can see we've got that grind down on the S&P, got a big high volume move and the grindy move back to kind of consolidation. That my gut tells me we're going to get a bullish candle here. I would be looking to the aggressive play would be long, but it isn't. It's aggressive, but got 46 minutes to close this 4-hour candle. The next candle could certainly be bullish, or one of the next 2 candles could be bullish. Probability wise, I think we're probably due for one. So watch equities to the upside today and waiting for oil. The dollar we're watching, we're kind of right in between our range high and range low. The yen, watch for a pullback down because of where we are on the high. I think we got a good idea on where we are. I think we pretty much got a good handle on what's going on. I think we're definitely going to have more opportunity this week. Going to pay a little more attention this week and be a little more on the game. We've been very slow on news for the last 2 to 3 weeks. There's almost like nothing happening. There hasn't been a reason to move money. Again, to go over this again, we got quite a bit of stuff this week. Got Aussie rates overnight tonight. We got CAD rates on Wednesday. ISM services PMI after the market opens tomorrow. with jolts, job openings, and ISM services PMI, which is not a huge data point, but it may be something. But it's after the market opens, which is worth noting. Then again, I think CAD rates on Wednesday and ADP. We'll get our ADP numbers. We'll know what the non-farm numbers are going to be for NFP. We'll have a good idea on where we're heading on Wednesday once ADP comes out. Jobless Thursday, unemployment claims, which is every Thursday. But then Friday is our big volatility day. We got non-farm payroll. So we got a little bit to look forward to this week. I have a feeling it's going to be a very good week. I'm actually ready for this week. I think we're going to put points on the board for sure this week. We got stuff happening. There's reasons to move money. This is really starting to look like a short here, guys, on Bitcoin. Just saying. If this candle closes like this, don't be surprised if there's something brutal coming. So again, I would wait for the candle to close though, but that is looking like a top to me. That this is looking like a high, like a peak high. I would wait for the candle to close, but I would probably start to watch this. If it breaks the high, wait for the next candle. But assuming if this makes a lower high on this candle, still got 2 hours, but it's starting to look like that. Like something rough is coming. So just be cautious. That's all I'm saying. Not a call yet, but the call is caution. It's a cautionary tale. Again, the yen. There's a lot of stuff in good spots, guys. Yen, big inflection point, triple top. The dollar's not in a great spot, but yeah. Watching gold. Stock market indices for the move. Oil's coming. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of opportunity this week. So we're going to stick with it, pay attention to it. I'm actually ready to get it this week. The Euro pairs, watching the low of the day every day on the Euro pairs until those start to come back up. Euro Aussie, Euro Pound, Euro Kiwi are probably going to be the three that are most likely to make the right directional move. Yeah, so I think that's it. We'll go in, look at some lower time frame stuff in a minute. I'm actually going to stop the video. I forgot recording, going long today on this one. 8 something. I don't know if we have news coming. Nothing really right now. Lagarde speaks at 9. What is that? Yeah. I don't know if she's going to take questions or not. Maybe we'll find it and see, but probably not a huge market moving deal. Anyway, yeah, we'll come back and look at our 4-hour analysis maybe later in the week, see how we did, see how close we were. But you have a good week. And we'll, trading on for the rest of the week.